You got what I want, got what I want. You give me just one look and you know I'm good to go. You know I'm good to go.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us on Minds of Commercial Real Estate. Today we have Bryson and Robert from Wealth Strategies Advisory Group. Thank you guys for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're happy to be here.
So today we are going to discuss how for business owners who are selling and to use tax strategies to pay less capital gains tax and or other methods. And Bryson and Robert are going to tell us more about strategies and what can be achieved.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit about our firm. What Wealth Strategies and the Virtual Family Office do is focus on working with business owners, entrepreneurs in mitigating taxes across all areas, income tax, capital gains tax. Where we've seen a lot of opportunity to help business owners is a lot of the transactions and M&A roll-up work that's been taking place given the climate over the past few years. You've also got this silver wave of business owners that are baby boomers who are looking to retire and don't have a lot of legacy planning. They don't have anyone to take that over. That, and coupled with the private equity liquidity that's looking to be deployed, there's a huge amount of consistent M&A roll-up taking place year over year, specifically in the home improvement space, HVAC, plumbing, roofing, garage doors, a lot in the dentistry and physicians' practices. And so we have a large client base and specialize in working with those business owners to do as much planning as we can pre-sale. But for those that have sold already and feel, oh, I've already missed the boat, I don't have anything else to do other than my CPA said, congratulations, pay the tax. The good news is there are alternative solutions to that. You don't just have to write the check to Uncle Sam, depending upon your situation, and everybody's is always different. One of the things we always like to do is understand who the business owner is and what the family dynamics are like, because one of the things we see that business owners don't do a lot of planning for is not just the sale of their business, but what are they going to do after they sell their business? Who are they after they sell their business? How are they going to spend their time after they sell their business? And I can't tell you how many folks have felt like selling their business is much like retirement. I hit this pinnacle, this destination of transaction and sale, and great. I'm excited to see all the results of that, but now I'm bored. I don't know what to do, and it's also sad to see where some of those people end up. So we do a lot of time, spend a lot of time with those business owners in coaching them and trying to understand, once we go through this transaction, the money's not going to solve problems or create this, lifestyle for you if we don't know how we're going to use it and spend your time. So we spend a lot of time doing that. But on the specific area of tax mitigation, one of the areas that we can help, if we can get a hold of the client before they sell, and as long as the structure is appropriate, one of the things and areas of specialty that we execute is called an installment sale trust. The idea is simply retitling and registering the ownership of their business or any highly appreciated asset into an irrevocable trust, which is managed by a trust protector, a tax attorney who draws up that language related to the trust, as well as a third-party trustee that acts in the best interest of the trust, and then our team who helps manage the assets in the trust. Why this is so beneficial is because it's a way to shelter 100% of the taxes that would occur based on that sale. As an example, you sell a business for $10 million. Depending upon your state, you might be responsible for writing a check anywhere from $2 to $5 million. And that can have a huge impact on, what do I do next? I've had clients pass up on selling their business because once they realized the net dollar amount they were going to receive, not the gross offered amount, they decided it was better to keep the business and all the tax benefits that go with it. So we specialize in using this trust, and we work directly with bringing the different members of that relationship to the table to help work with the clients.
When should a client come, maybe hire you guys or speaking to you guys? Like how many months, how many years before they plan to sell their business?
What I always tell clients is the more time and the more money you have, the less taxes you pay. We can obviously execute pretty quickly, but 6 to 18 months prior to sale is really that sweet spot that gives us enough time to educate them on the strategy, what we're going to do, and put together specific tax projections and scenarios that will allow them to have a good amount of time to thoughtfully think through those different scenarios, make sure they're comfortable with how each one will work before executing any one specific direction. I would encourage anybody who's within 3 to 5 years of looking to sell their business. We have exit planning specialists on our team as well that work with business owners to fine tune every single area of their business, A to Z, nuts to bolts, protect the business from the owners and the owners from the business, and be able to have a plan in place to create as much efficiency in that business as possible. Why? Because that will drive their EBITDA, and the higher we can get their EBITDA, the greater multiple we're going to be able to provide and help them with when they do go look to exit. So depending upon where they are, there may be still resources we have available to help support them.
Are there different strategies? For example, if somebody sells for a business from 0 to 10 million, from 10 to 25 million, or 10 to 50 million, above 50 million to 100 million, are there different strategies, or is it pretty much the same?
No, that's a great question. So there's definitely different strategies. And depending upon, again, the purpose, one area that we're different than most traditional tax planners or consultants is we're not so focused on where the money is going. After we develop the strategy, we're more focused on what's the purpose of the money that we're using in the strategy, because that drives the types of solutions that are appropriate for the client. Not every solution, regardless of the tax savings or income or positive benefits, if it doesn't align with the purpose of the client and what they're looking to do once they sell their business, it doesn't matter how good the investment or strategy actually is. So yes, there's definitely a whole arsenal of different solutions that we can bring to the table. One of the things I always say is it's not about the greatest tax mitigation. It's not about the highest rate of return. What we strive to do is optimize the output by putting together the best combination of variables, or the input, the solutions, the strategies as a combined factor to drive the greatest output, versus focusing too much on any one direct output of each solution.
You don't mind, I'd like to go through like an example. Let's say a family has a business for 30 years. Now they are in the stage to say they want to sell it. The kids don't want to be involved anymore. Sale price, let's say, for example, is 25 million.
Yeah, so we'll have a $25 million client. We've actually in the process right now working with a client that's going through this same scenario. This is not abnormal. That 10 to 25 million is really the highest level of interest by a lot of private equity firms right now. The larger businesses require a lot more capital and structure, and the smaller businesses just don't necessarily have that appetite for PE right now. But a client for $25 million, we may be able to leverage the installment sale trust. One of the things we have to consider is how many beneficiaries of that trust are there going to be? Is the business owner married? Do they have any children? How do they want those assets to pass if something were to happen to them? The reason for that is there's a number of rules within, from a compliance standpoint and an interest rate standpoint, that the IRS puts in place with some of these different structures. So we need to know how many beneficiaries are going to be part of that installment promissory note. We'd also evaluate a number of different strategies that we can couple or complement that strategy with, that we can actually eliminate tax in the current year. So we're not 100% about deferral. We're also not 100% focused on elimination of all taxes. Again, it's the best combination of all these strategies, which means we need to focus on how do we eliminate tax legally? How do we defer tax where we can't eliminate it, or it's in our better interest to kick that can down the road and draw down on those assets over time? And then thirdly, which I think is almost more important than the first two, whatever we don't eliminate and whatever we don't defer, we need to have a plan to pay. We need a plan and some transparency and visibility around what is this going to look like on tax day. I cannot tell you how many clients come, 5 million, 10 million, 25 million, it doesn't matter. They sell their business. It's done at the end of the year. Their CPA and attorney say, congratulations. Tell me when you're done, bring the money to me. I can invest it and tell you how to make up for what you just paid in tax. The CPA is like, bring me all your docs when you're done. We'll tell you what you owe. And there's no planning involved at all. They only find out after the fact that there's all these things that they could have done. And now they're stuck writing that really big tax check. We want to help give them that transparency and visibility. They should know approximately what they are going to owe based on this transaction before they close on the transaction. That's really, really important. Again, that's why that timing of 6 to 18 months is so important, because the longer time we have to gather information about their personal finances, their business finances, and the specifics of the transaction, the greater and more valuable we're going to be to them to give them really good insight on, again, a variety of different scenarios. One thing for sure, we are not here to tell anyone what they should do. Our job is to consult and advise and give them optionality, because with optionality and transparency, the clients are going to feel much more confident in making any one or a combined number of decisions based on any transaction that they're going to partake in.
Got it. Let's say going back to that 25 million, you said, let's say there is a husband who's the business owner, there's a wife as a beneficiary and 2 kids. Can we go a little bit more in detail how that kind of that structure works, and if they want to be paid out over, let's say, 20 or 25 years?
Yeah, so most of the installment sale trusts are going to have a 10-year promissory note as part of the initial transaction. That can always be reevaluated with the trust protector and attorney over that period of time. The original owner of the business is able to call that note at any time and get paid out 100% of what the balance is. They're just responsible for the tax. They also have the flexibility to re-up the installment trust or promissory note for another 10 years should we reach that 10 years and them not want to touch those assets. So in a $25 million example, we might be able to put a $5 million promissory note on the husband, the wife, and each of the children. That's about 20 million. We would probably keep the other 5 million, again, maybe more, out of the trust and allocate those dollars before, or after the sale, but again, outside the trust. So we may shift 20 million into the trust, let the transaction occur, let those proceeds be received by the trust, and then the other 5 million go into a separate account that we would begin allocating to things like oil and gas. We do about 50 million of oil and gas strategies on an annual basis. That's very effective depending upon your state to reduce ordinary income tax and obviously capital gains at those types of levels. We also do a variety of different bonus depreciation, real estate, cost segregation plays using different structures and different investment types to be able to offer those elimination tools. For folks that aren't interested in eliminating, or maybe a business owner of 25 million that has real estate attached to that sale, we could look at things like qualified opportunity zones. We could also look at things like 1031s. So a lot of times, again, the earlier we get involved with the client, 25 million, we may be able to bifurcate their business into real estate and business. We may be able to do different solutions for different pieces of the business. And again, different solutions based on eliminating tax now before, deferring tax using an installment sale, qualified opportunity zone, 1031 strategies. And then again, as those dollars get paid out over that 10-year period of time, we also want to be very active with the client in navigating what is the total income tax going to be that's going to be paid now that we're taking those distributions out of the promissory note, because it's not just the transaction that we have to face that problem or navigate those waters. We have to navigate that on an annual basis as you start to take those distributions out, because the distributions from the promissory note would be paid out or owed taxable in 3 different ways: the original basis, the capital gains from the original sale, as well as interest income that's going to come from the promissory note. So navigating these types of transactions is much more of a science where you have to be very proactive and bring a lot of subject matter experts to the table, which is where our family office really strives.
Now, coming down to the cost, what is a cost for such an example? What would be your cost?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the cost is always going to be based on the complexity of the client's situation. It's going to be dependent on the total work that we have to put in, as well as the different subject matter experts that we need to bring to the table. Any legal work that's done for these types of trusts is paid directly to the attorney that's responsible for drawing those trusts up. And we have a variety of different attorneys that those clients can choose from. Again, depending upon the complexity of the situation, we may need a different level of attorney to work with us in that regard. When it comes to the trustee, our trustee fees range from the trustee. Again, it's a third party that's unrelated to us, and that can sometimes be a flat fee, anywhere from $1,000 a month or $12,000 a year to manage the trust. Depending upon the size, it may be a portion of the assets inside the trust, 25, 50 basis points on the overall value of the trust. Our team, we manage the assets inside of the trust. And again, depending upon the size of the overall trust or assets, will determine what that fee is that we're going to charge on the management of those assets. Anything that we do outside that trust, for example, the oil and gas, bonus depreciation, 1031s, QOZs, those types of things all have built-in fee structures as part of the private placement or Reg D offerings, where the client is not going to absorb that fee over and above their investment. So those fees are built into the gross investment dollars by the client.
Is there a minimum sale price you take on?
That's an absolutely phenomenal question. So we run into this all the time. I'll answer this in an A and a B response. Yes, there's definitely a required minimum. Anything less than $1 million total assets going into the trust, it's probably unlikely that the trust is going to be the most effective strategy to drive the greatest output. Again, that optimal solution. Why? Because we can be more strategic today on a value of $1 million, knowing the tax rates today, the options and opportunities we have today gives us a lot more to play with and be very strategic today, right? We know all the rules and we also know all the cards we can play. Every time we defer taxes, we're playing the guessing game to a certain extent. What will tax rates look like in the future? What types of strategies will be available in the future? And what will the tax laws be in the future? So we're always going to have some unknown risk when it comes to deferral. Now, we always want to look at what is going to be the best overall strategy based on what we think we know. Anything under $1 million, I would say let's navigate the taxes today. The costs are going to inhibit the valuation and solutions that we would put into the trust itself. With that said, anything over $1 million does have the ability to use the trust. And the B part or B response is if someone maybe has a large business, but they also have a portfolio of real estate. We have a client Bryson and I are working on right now, multiple rental properties, wanting to offload those. They've looked at 1031s, but they also know, wait, I could sell these assets one at a time. And each time I do, dump those proceeds back into the same trust. So if it's someone that has multiple transactions that they see themselves potentially executing into the future over the next 1 to 5 years, an installment trust at a smaller amount to get the project started and use that as that shell to dump those proceeds in on as those other transactions occur could also be appropriate. But if it's a one-time transaction, $1 million or less, I would say there's other strategies that are much more effective.
Thank you for all the valuable information. Really appreciate it. If you have one recommendation for a person selling a business either now or the near future, what would it be?
Well, it would be absolutely to call us and let us help you with analyzing your situation. One thing I want to point out is that we're very abundant in our mindset. We're not here to disrupt relationships. So if you have a trusted CPA or you have an attorney that you work with or a business broker, we get a lot of referrals from business brokers and commercial real estate folks. If you have somebody that you trust and you've worked with over time, bring them to the conversation. Let's explore these types of strategies together because while we know what is possible, it doesn't matter if we don't have the buy-in of the people that you already trust. So number one, give yourself time. You don't want to wait till a week before or a week after you get your LOI to start exploring these types of things. If you're considering selling your business, let's make sure we've got everything buttoned up, all your I's dotted, all your T's crossed, and we can create and drive as much value as possible at the time you sell. It's not about what you make, it's about what you keep.
Thank you, Robert and Bryson. Again, thank you for all the valuable information and look forward to speaking with you guys soon. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, share any questions or comments in the comments below, and follow us on social media. I look forward to seeing you next time.
Let's get together. Let's get to having some fun. Let's do whatever. The night's looking so young. Let's get together. Let's get to having some fun. Let's get together. Let's get together. Let's get together. Let's get together.